morning, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. And today is, what is today? September 29th. Do you believe that? Oh my God. September. What a month. I was laughing. Oh, and I have to tell you, yesterday, I did 2 shows. I, of course, told no one I was doing these shows. They weren't supposed to be a big mystery surprise. They just happened. Mona, who's over on Studio B, Revolution Radio, please call into her show today and order pizza for me. Trust me on this. She'll laugh her ass off. Wave to her. So I was on for 2 hours with her, and then afterwards, for some reason, Studio A and B on Revolution Radio were like sans host. Nobody was there, so I jumped in. So I went more into the Philadelphia project and the Pope and Rocky. As a matter of fact, how that was pre-programmed. Even his name, Sylvester Stallone. Even the places they walked. So I'm hoping that that show is recorded somewhere, since I obviously am complete dumbass and just missed it. I missed it completely. I thought here I am recording it. Was I? No. So anyway, I was on from 2 to 4 on Studio A yesterday, so if that is recorded anywhere in the ethers, it'd be awesome if you'd pass that to me. I did put up a synopsis on turtleislandnews.info on the Rocky and how it's pre-programmed. It'll make sense. There's pictures and everything. Yeah, Rocky. But it'll completely make sense when you look at the pictures. And I'd like to play that one again. I was kind of flying off the cuff in the way that I do. So it was actually a pretty good one. I may have to take a break and get more tea. My throat hurts. See, that's what happens when I talk for 4 hours and don't shut the hell up. I would like to say a wonderful happy birthday, a shout out today. CERN broke ground 1955. So CERN is officially 61 years old today. Who even knew that? Because, that's awfully not demonic going on. We've had so many events. And I have to do a prequel to the show on Thursday as well. Because Thursday's show is going to be about what September is really all about. And it's not just about the hokey pokey. Our entire September address. Of course, 2015 is really about what's going to happen in 2017. It's a prequel. It's a warm-up to the Grand Mass. This was good. I have to say that I was quite entertained by the entire thing and the fabulousness of the Pope, of course. I have been incredibly entertained by the whole esoterica. But it's not. The events going on now are not for now. This is about Revelations 12 specifically. The Francis effect. The coming deception, which is already here. The September 11th interface ground zero babble that we've just went through. This whole parable of perspective from the Pope to the Church of the Philadelphia. This is all about the September address. We will go into it, but that's for Thursday. Today is for today, completely different. I will give you just a short synopsis, because I don't want you to get mad at me and say, what do you mean you talked about stuff? Okay, so short synopsis of what I did yesterday when I was by myself. Now, realize this is going to be a little rough because I was winging it. But again, there were pictures. Okay, so Rocky pre-programmed. I know it's going to sound nuts, but I'm sure the majority of my shows sound nuts, and you guys are awesome for hanging in there with me. So, we've been talking about mega rituals, have we not? We have to consider that many times we have been pre-programmed to see, like if we were on a boat, in a certain way, or to see a certain thing. For example, even with the 9/11 catastrophe, we were shown numerous times in numerous years before the 9/11 event in movies, cartoons, strange echoes. Now, September 27th, 2015, Pope Francis held a Mass in Philadelphia. He did so at the Art Museum. The Art Museum you have seen before because it is the famous spot where Rocky Balboa ran to the top, held up his arms over his head in triumph, in victory. And I'm showing you pictures of the Chiro, an interesting picture of Jesus and the Pope at the Art Museum. And the cross that Jesus is on is the upside-down cross, by the way, where they used to hang people who were betrayers. This is the story of the hanged man that we have gotten into. And an image of Rocky. Rocky, or Ro-Chi. Flipped it around, you got the Chiro. Jesus on the cross. Still with me? Okay, so his victory was won. Rocky, not Jesus. Not over the world, but over himself. Rocky overcame his self-doubt, his shortcomings, his failures. Rocky went from a nobody to become the boxing champion of the world. But he lost this battle, this one. It sounds familiar, right? This is the story of Jesus becoming the Christ. Jesus was beat bloody, like a piece of meat, as was Rocky. Jesus overcame the beating, rose from the dead, as did Rocky, symbolically, of course. This is why it is so familiar to see the Pope Francis backdrop. It is Jesus the Christ with his arms up in victory, just like Rocky. And I have a little slide. Philadelphia truly is the city of brotherly love. The symbol of Christ is called the Chi Rho. Chi is an X, Rho is an R. X are the first two letters of the name Christ in Greek. So if you write Chi Rho mirrored, you get Ro Chi. Rocky. Rocky Balboa. Then we go back to what we talked about last week. Baal is Boa. Baal is the Canaanite god of the Baal shaft that we were talking about. Not B-A-L-L, but B-A-A-L. And shaft, yes, it's phallus symbol. It's the same one that we saw in Washington, D.C. with the Washington obelisk, and again at the 9/11 Memorial Mass. In the underground, the trade centers, as a last column, the 432-inch steel obelisk. And by the way, Rocky, 432 in gematria. Baal equals boa. Boa equals serpent. Baal, boa equals the serpent god. Ro equals Chiba equals Ro equals boa. Christ, the serpent god. And it should be noted that the Philadelphia Art Museum has 72 steps that must be climbed to get to the top. Rocky ascended 72 steps to get to the top of the Philadelphia stairway to heaven. 72 angels must be either defeated or joined. First it was the 72 that fell. You have 33 in your spine. These are the jewels, but it was 72. Again, steps. 72 is a key. It is an astronomical number, astrological number. 72 is the years it takes for our Earth to tilt 1 degree. The Earth tilts 1 degree every 72 years. This is a slow tilting of the Earth. It is called the precessional movement. And this is the movement that causes the wheels on the bus to go round and round. That is the zodiac. These are the houses. This is Zulu. This is pretty much all of the voodoo rituals on this planet. That's why Zulu and voodoo and all these words are very similar. Probably why zodiac starts with a Z as well. It's old. Has to do with Mars. Mars that we have just discovered, and I'm making little quotey symbols with my fingers. Discovered has running water. And they hinted on their little messed up talk that actually they were looking for life. Not life just there, but life that came here. They were looking for the primordial seed that started on Mars, that I've been telling you. It started on Mars and Venus, because we have plants and animals from Mars and Venus, when it was in the old configuration, and probably at one point Venus was in our spot. Mars may have been in our spot. What we are, this Earth, is a piece. And something broke us up. Venus is female, Mars is male. They were a couple. They were with the Father. We were children of the Father, who was Saturn, when Saturn was good. Before he started to eat his children, something came through the portal, broke us up, had Venus spinning in the wrong direction. She's still spinning in the opposite direction. Venus is out of control right now. So is Mars. But they said they were looking for the seeds of life. Of course they found it on Mars. They're not saying they found it, but they're saying it kind of looks like they found it. They freaking found it. And it's apparently not the little Marvin the Martian that, I was saying, but where's the earth-shattering kaboom? Anyway, it has salt because it talks about primal seas of brine. That's salt. You have salt, you have water. They're going to tell us they have some gravity. That's life. And you need light. Light is complicated, but it most likely has that too. So soon they're going to say either they can create atmosphere there or it has some. And they've lied. Well, not lied, they just didn't know. Whatever, boys. So anyway, This slow tilting of the earth, precessional movement, it is the movement that causes the zodiac to reposition itself every 2,160 years, with the sun on March 22nd, which is 322 each year. The first St. Peter's Basilica was built in 322 AD in Rome. Jesus the Christ was called the Fisher of Men. Do you see what I see? Rocky was from a section of Philadelphia called Fish Town. Jesus is forever in the battle with the devil. His name is called Apollyon. Rocky was in a battle with Apollo Creed. With me? It should be noted that Rocky Balboa's real name, Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester comes from the word Sylvania, which means woods. That is where we get the word Pennsylvania, meaning Penn's woods. Don't forget, Jesus was a carpenter. That makes him a woodworker. Only hours after Pope Francis finishes the Mass, an event occurred. An event like no other. Magical event. Hasn't happened for 33 years. Won't happen again for a long time. It was a total lunar eclipse of a blood moon, a supermoon, a Superman. So I believe what we watched in Philadelphia on September 25th was yet another grand mega ritual like no other I have seen. They pulled out all the stops. There was pomp and circumstance. What the deeper esoteric and occult meanings are, we may never completely know, but I'm going to try. America's 3 capitals were visited, as well as her most sacred temples, not to mention the United Nations, which is a world's sacred temple, and the Pope has blessed America. And his intention is clear: be nice, love your brother, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and finally, accept the New World Order that is so obviously unfolding right in front of you. I think I'm going to have to play some music, guys. My throat is it's so dry. So forgive me, darlings. I'm going to play some music. I'm going to be right back. Sorry. This is some music. It's good for you. Sorry about that, everyone. I didn't want to cough in your face. So, the last of this ritual, because it gets worse, because they're about to unveil the Queen of Heaven, which we're going into, but we have to lead up to how the Pope, His Ass Holiness, has just friggin' done this. Like, really? Okay, so, the stars over Philadelphia during the Pope Francis's Mass. This is the Golden Gate. The view that Pope Francis had of the sky over Philadelphia at 4 p.m. on September 27th, 2015, while looking down the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. This is the Elysium Fields, using the sightline of 145 degrees southeast. This 145 degree southeast sight line from the ellipse at the Philadelphia Art Museum, it had to be there. There would be nothing more perfect than this. This is Perfect. So Rochi jumps up there, but this view allows for Francis to use the Philadelphia's 3 pyramids. They're skyscrapers, they're Liberty 1, Liberty 2, and the Mellon Bank, as site markers to view the horizon and the sky. During his Mass, Pope Francis would have been looking directly at the center of the Milky Way, the galactic core, lining up with the very center of everything. Perfection, this alignment between Pope Francis and what the Egyptians called the Black Madonna, the Mother. This is Isis. Yep, went right there. Looking at Isis, looking at Ishtar, looking at the great black rock, which isn't right now trapped inside the black cube, but the black cube could also be the mother. This is the Queen of Heaven. And he knelt at a moment to her. Now the constellations of Sagittarius, Scorpio, and Serpens, the serpent, and Ophiuchus, the serpent handler, and the planet Saturn were all hovering at that moment precisely over that city. The blood moon, the total lunar eclipse, came 3 hours later at exactly 9:11, and it lasted 72 minutes. Again, Philadelphia Art Museum, 72 steps to get to the top. This, again, astronomical number, because the Earth tilts 1 degree every 72 years. This is called the precession. This causes a shift in the houses of the zodiac every 2,160 years on March 22nd, 322. The first St. Peter's Basilica, again, 322. Sacred number of, again, the Skull and Bone Society, who are echoing, actually, the Mother Goddess. Now, during Mass, Francis aligned with the center of the galaxy, the Milky Way. He became, he was rising. He was raising. It's a ceremony of raising. He was raising the serpent. He became Ophiuchus. He became the 13th, the missing zodiac symbol, the missing 13th month. The 13th month that was taken away. America's sacred number is 13. The reason there's 13 signals. An initiate must remember the lost 13th zodiac to become the serpent handler. The spot Francis was aligned in the sky is called the Golden Gate. It is a position in the night sky where the gods and new souls enter the world from the galaxy, the center of the galaxy. From there to Saturn, to everywhere. Truly Saturn and truly Francis was the serpent and the serpent handler of heaven on that day, on heaven and earth on that day. Pope Francis brought the gold and silver keys with him. That means that he was holding the keys to heaven and hell. So, that's what's up. We'll take it further, because here's what comes next. Sound okay, guys? I hope it sounds okay. I can't see my thingy moving. Oh, yes it is. Okay. Taking a sip of tea. Now, this will be part 1. I'll get to part 2 eventually. Because our so-called civilized societies today function much like that of a beehive. Unfortunately, mostly unbeknownst to most, we too have queens and royals who represent an ultimate authority over all. Or in areas where there is no royal family, powerful groups or figures of control that represent only a tiny percentage of the overall population, yet indirectly control, dictate, if you will, to the majority of humanity how they should live in order to ultimately serve these ales. And there's pictures up too. If you get a chance, go to turtleislandnews.info. Pope Francis of the infamous Ninth Circle of Hell is the top story, global diversion, and smokescreen, if you will. I suspect the Dragon Lady, Hillary Clinton, will be the top Democratic Party presidential candidate in this country for reasons I've told you about, that she has stepped forward and now is a hero because she stepped up against the XL pipeline. She stepped up so that millions of Americans can come across border and get cheap drugs from Canada. She's the one. Guarantee it. So I have a picture of her making the same hand signal as Francis. And Francis sitting there with a Maltese cross. Both Francis and Nazi Führer Adolf Hitler. Now in a BBC interview. Oh, and by the way, I did put up a link to absolutely everything I'm talking about today on my page. It says links for the show. So I put everything. So if you want to go super nerdy on this, each one of these links could be a show. So there's lots. If you have lots of time and you're interested, come on down. Anyway, in a BBC interview, Francis took the highly unusual step of actually admitting that there were thousands of pedophile priests in the Catholic Church worldwide. By their estimates, 8,000. That's the tip of the iceberg here. The Maltese cross was also the favorite of Hitler's SS. In an exclusive interview with Kevin Annett of the International Tribunal into the Crimes of the Church and State, this Kevin Annett, who is a liar and a thief, therefore working with these guys, stood at the Common Law Court of Justice in Brussels, Belgium. He said that 5 judges and 27, interesting number, 27, flipped that number around, you got 72, again, just an accident I'm sure, members from 6 countries, including the United States, considered evidence over 50,000 missing children. Canada, US, Argentina, European children who were suspected victims of international Luciferian, sacrificial, what would we call it? Rape and torture of the Ninth Circle, which Kevin Annett is 100% a part of. Absolutely a part of. Now, Pope Francis I have a picture of him giving communion to the Argentine dictator, General Jorge Videla, leader of the fascist generals who ruled Argentina in the late 70s, disappeared more than 20,000 people. He was absolutely fine with that. And then I have another creepy picture of him looking at a child with all pedophilic eyes in his face. 2 adolescent women have claimed that Pope Francis raped them while participating in child sacrifices. These 2 women are dead. Mysteriously. One of those weird accidents, kind of like falling down an elevator shaft onto some bullets kind of accident. Now, 8 eyewitnesses actually confirmed the allegations according to evidence presented at this common law court in Brussels. Pope Francis is also a perpetrator in satanic child rights. He said nothing when his own priests were being tortured in Argentina. When he was acting as an Argentine priest, then was raised to a bishop and kept his mouth shut. No, this is according to Vatican archives that he knew and was rewarded because of it. Other witnesses set to testify that were present during Pope Francis's meeting with the military in Argentina's 1970s, that dirty war. Now, according to witnesses, Francis helped traffic children, missing political prisoners, into the international child exploitation ring that is run by the office at the Vatican. Evidence of Catholic Jesuit order documents called the magistral privilege are presented in court by the chief prosecutor. The date, December 25th, 1967, was said to show that every new pope was required to participate in these ninth circle satanic ritual sacrifices of newborn children, including drinking their blood. That one's number 6 in my list of links. Now, Pope Francis' trip to America also came at the start of a trial, Joey Patterson in South Dakota, for the murder of Minnesota Vikings running back Adrian. Yeah, that name again. Adrian Peterson's 2-year-old son, Tyrese Robert Ruffin. I believe little Tyrese was raised within this ninth circle to be sacrificed. Even though the child was a murder victim, all of his organs had been taken, so harvested within days of the homicide. And pending a criminal investigation, that doesn't happen. Little Tyrese died from 4 blunt force injuries to the brain. He was bludgeoned to death. Little Tyrese's name is particular for a reason. Norse mythology, there is a Tyr, Tyr, a god of justice. His name derives from TIW or Tyrus or Tactus, and other Roman writers described him as a recipient of human sacrifice, equated him with, again, Mars, when Mars goes bloody. Tyrus, stamped as an exceedingly ancient god of the sky and the day. Either case, he must have occupied a high position in the hierarchy, although he's not clearly described in records about him. Now Tyre, another Germanic god of war, patron god of justice, persecutor of Odin. Now at the time of, I'm not quite sure, but Tyre had to make way for Odin, who became a god after him, god of war after Tyre. Tyre was by then regarded as Odin's son, or presumably because of a hymn or something. He was the boldest of the gods, who usurps courage, heroism. In battle, Tyre is represented as a man with one hand. The shield he always carries is the exact same shield that they use, the Zulu use. Same things. Scarred face. It is Mars that we just went to. Probably an accident. I don't think so. Like most of us, Viking Adrian Patterson doesn't have a clue what's really going on. He doesn't have any idea or understand any pagan, Norse, Viking symbolism that led to the slaughter of his child. Patterson has to be afraid for himself and his children. He has stayed away from Joey, the death of little Tyrese and the murder trial, like it was the plague. And again, signs and symbols rule this world, not words, not laws. Confucius said that. Keep in mind, as you hear more of this story, every morning the gates of the east open up, and Shamus, the Sumerian god, the sun god, appears. He travels across the sky during the day and enters the gate in the west. He travels through the underworld at night in order to begin in the east the next day. The Maltese four-armed cross is based on a very mysterious ancient symbol that now represents secrecy and the occult. Its origins date back as the eight-pointed star of the Sumerian goddess Inanna. She was the Sumerian goddess of love, fertility, and war. The goddess of the Anna temple in the city of Uruk, modern-day Warka, Iraq. Her main center, around 4000 BC, in Kemetic cosmology, she is known as the Ageless One, the goddess Ninth, or Ninth, and Isis, the goddess Neth, or Nit. Nobody knows her age. Nana's symbol is of great mystery and great antiquity. It is believed that it locks secrets, esoteric holdings, brings light to the uninitiated. It is a symbol linked to divine majesty, immortality itself. It is the unbegotten. It goes back right to, and I have a picture of this, of a picture that says it goes back actually to the center of the galaxy. Now the picture I have is known as the stone tablet of Shamash, recovered from ancient Babylon city of Sippar, southern Iraq, in around 1881, dated around 888 BC. Shamash, deity, and the sun god in Akkadian, Assyria, Babylon, Hebrew, pathos. Shamus is the god of justice in Babylon and Assyria, probably Chaldean too, corresponding to the Sumerian Utak. The tablet is important because it symbolizes a divine sacred knowledge, the light of gods, being passed down by angelic beings, in the symbol of an 8-pointed star of the goddess Inanna to a king, symbolic representation of the sacred forces. The Babylonian king Nabu-Apla Idlina, between heaven and earth, is believed to be standing between the two interceding deities on the left in the base of Shemish's monument, leading him back to the divine order. And there's pictures and arrows and everything. Now, Khnum. This is a pre-dynastic water god. Always the first god is water. This is the creator. This is the fashioner of the bodies of men. This is Leb that I've talked about in stories. This is the sun. This is the dog god. This is Anu. Later. Dog, god, wolf, all these things. Now he fashions a pharaoh, Makare, and her Ka on a potter's wheel. Queen Makare was born in the divine order and the light of the gods. The god Shamus, associated with water, again by garment, holds two instruments, a measuring rod and a coil of rope, symbols of divine authority. Could be a couple things. Could be DNA spiral, could actually be copper. We'll go into that. Both of these instruments, though, represent majesty and ability to discriminate. It may be ritually similar to the crook and the flail later held by Kemetan kings, and then passed on still to this day. Now, in a tablet, the god Shamus sits over a planetary genus of symbols, whose lower level, the moon, and from a higher level, the sun, and whose planetary or astral level is Venus, most likely conjoined with Mars together. Now, during the Roman Empire, Shamus became associated with the Roman god Mithra and Baal, B-A-A-L. The Emperor Hadrian forbade human sacrifices to Mithra and Baal. Mithra, who we get most of the Jesus symbolism now. It was declared that under the Emperor Hadrian, where you get Hadrian's Wall and stuff like that, human sacrifices were almost entirely abolished. He is the best exponent of the mysteries of Mithra. Human sacrifices and ancient mysteries of Baal, so Moloch, Shamus, went underground and became secret. The Vatican, as we've talked about before, is built on these grounds, and the grounds diverted to the worship of Mithra or Mithras. We've talked about that last week, I think. Now, the Orthodox Christian hierarchy is nearly identical to the Mithrian version, and didn't we just find, was it last year, all those skulls all around the Vatican that just seem to come out of nowhere because it's built over death, basically. Now, virtually all the elements of the Orthodox Christian rituals, from mitre, wafer, water, baptism, altar, doxology, are adopted from Mithra. It's the same religion. Now, the Vatican's Mithric versions of rituals and the human sacrifice are secret mysteries of the Ninth Satanic Circle that I've told you about. The Knights Templar, the Freemasons. God Shamus represents the Master. This is Darth Vader. This is the Dark Father that they must swear to. The King, measured by the measuring rod or crook, and frail, righteousness, is replaced by secret initiates. The divine light of heaven, sacred knowledge of Inanna, unlocking the divine majesty and immortality, is conjured up by them through demons, daemons, devils, angelic beings, sapphires. Okay, hold it right there. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy, and we will come back to Baphomet and all the other boys. See you guys later. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so yesterday I was on with Mona. Mona's show is the same time as mine now, but yesterday. And then after that show, nobody was on. So I called Studio A and broadcast from there. You got it? Did you find me? Somebody find me. Okay, I don't know where I was. I may have hogged everything. So welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. A rather confused Tracey right now. I was on some show yesterday, damn it. Why I didn't even record it, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So, again, we're all listener supported. We love you guys and can always use your help. And you guys rock. Okay, I'm moving on because there's angels and demons and the apocalypse and everything. So, Sapphires, fallen angels, demonic monsters, and they're all terribly scary. Satanic rituals and rites and ceremonies and human sacrifices every place, just underneath where this freaking Vatican is. Now, if you look at the picture, there's a Maltese cross seal in the banner of Alpha, Tau, Omega. The order of 1865, the founding of the Virginia Military Institute in Lexington, VA. Exactly the same, or very close. Now, undoubtedly, their seal with the crossed swords, the X symbol, and Teutonic Knights, the battle axe, showed that they also claimed to be worthy, righteous, knighted of the sacred knowledge of Inanna. Ishtar, the aegis one, the Queen of Heaven. And if you've watched many of the TV shows lately, who always show us predictive programming, remember when before a couple years, 5-10 years before Obama crept in there in a little sneaky way, because no one had heard of this guy. It just appeared as if created from a tube. There's a woman president, a woman whose hair looks like Hillary. Hillary has just stepped up and looking hero-esque. She looks like she may have gotten a facelift too. But anyway, there's a pyramid, and angelic beings appear to be passing their sacred knowledge for them from heaven in 3 of their panels on the Maltese cross. And there's images of that. Now, in this early Alpha Tau Omega seal, based on medieval alchemy, the crow represents death, petrification, decomposition. When the skull appears, it is a skull symbolism in Nazi SS insignia too. The death's head represents loyalty unto death. The Totenkampf, Germanic. The rose is a symbol to the occult teachings and the secret societies as a symbol of silence and secrecy. Sometimes there's the hang cross too, but usually the crow in the skull means shut the hell up. It is also the national flower of England. The rose is one of the most important images used in the ancient brotherhood and by the alchemists from the East. Various secret societies use the rose as one of their main symbols. Freemasons, Order of the Rosy Cross, or the Rosicrucians. The Order's defining moment, it says, was the Battle of Newmarket that was fought May 15th, 1864, in defense of Richmond, Virginia. 16 of the Virginia Military Institute cadets that fought at the battle went on to become founders of the Alpha Tau Omega. Their defining moment was significant in another way because the Black Union troops spearheaded the attack on the Confederate defense positions in the battle. Word raced through the Confederate ranks that black troops were attacking. Pickett shouted all the nasty N-words as they trampled into the earthworks. And I have a picture. Now, James H. Harris, the 38th Colored Infantry Unit, won the Medal of Honor for his gallantry in the Battle of Newmarket Heights, which is interesting since I don't think they were allowed shoes or guns, which, would make it tough. April 6, 1865, the U.S. War Department bestowed the Medal of Honor on 14 black veterans of Newmarket Heights because the black troops overran the Confederate defense forces at Newmarket. With outstanding gallantry and bravery, they were victorious. The 16 cadets of Alpha Tau Omega ran for their lives. They went back to their institute. A second Civil War, in secret under the divine light of their own folly, by the sacred knowledge bestowed upon them by a demon, a devil, a seraph, a fallen angel, a demonic monster, a Baphomet. They are not clear exactly, but here's what they did. And I have an image of the ancient Babylonian boundary stone. This connects the 8-pointed star of Inanna and Ishtar and Isis with the beehive. At the very least, it is a warning that you are now entering into the society of the bees. In May 1776, Adam Weishaupt and his cohorts of the Illuminati intended to call themselves the Order of the Beast, bent in Norden, I think, German, like something like that anyway. But the tower masoned. This is the tower card that we see in all tarot cards now. On the Order of the 1865's official crest is based on the first tower masoned in history, the Tower of Babel. The first mason, Nimrod of the Bible, built the tower, allegedly. The Tower of Babel is based on a hexagon geometry of the cells of the beehive, the honeycomb. This an ancient structure, ancient symbol, very sturdy. Now, I will link the Maltese cross, Alpha Tau Omega, and the beehive honeycomb directly to Elizabeth McElroy towards the end of this. Now, for almost a decade, we have seen inside two of Lucifer's unspoken beehive honeycombs that most have no concept, no idea what they have fallen into. It has been the subject of nightmares, some of which haunt me to this day, but nightmares that most don't understand until now. You have to become aware of the reality of the queen bee, Beth McElroy. In the 80s, one of my favorite researchers online busted a major federal corruption ring at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management and Department of Education in San Francisco, involving illicit immigration of foreign nationals out of the Philippines. They were bringing them into the United States to take federal jobs based on fraudulent employment applications, fraudulent immigration papers. It involved immigrants paying off their sponsors for jobs. And in the place, well, in the U.S., a Mormon mafia combination out of the U.S. Treasury. Now, we have to go to the Mormon beehive honeycomb because they use the same symbol. Many Mormons were, and most likely are, Masons, including Joseph Smith. The book of Ether in the Book of Mormon tells the story of the Jebusites, a tribe that lived at the time of the Tower of Babel in the Old Testament. Now, according to the Book of Mormon, the Jebusites made a miraculous 344-day voyage across the ocean to North America. They brought with them the deseret. That means honeybee in the language of the Book of Mormon. The culture of corruption had gotten so out of hand in the U.S. Department of Education. Many were part of this influx of new employees brought into the department. 2-year contracts trying to clean up this mess, massive backlog, federal student loan sections. That's always a problem. But it was far worse than anyone could ever imagine. You never know how bad it got. Or no one ever expects how bad these things will be. But unbeknown, inside Lucifer's beehive is the mob and the U.S. Department of Education, which we've talked about. Now forget Las Vegas. Forget Chicago. For most of the 20th century, Kansas City was the gangster's paradise. Frank Hyde, the Mafia, and the Machine, the story of the Kansas City mob. The Department of Education in San Francisco was an old regime of silence, privilege, fraud, corruption, racketeering, all linked to the Kansas City mob. The department's regional office in Kansas City, Missouri, was closed down, but the mob still maintained a number of lucrative private contracts with the department. They had private money contract to train the department's new employees in San Francisco. Now, crashing with one of their goons immediately during some employee seminar, and this is from the Black Mind-Controlled Assassin, overly ugly racial incidents that happened there against young black ladies, especially right in the middle of training sessions. It actually came to blows during this when these guys were supposed to be working on the same side, but it wasn't going to be much of a fight because, well, one of the guys was a punk. When was it? So, after the incident, senior employees informed these guys that a small-time mobster out of Kansas City was actually running there. So freaking for a job. This is wild, wild west stuff in the U.S. Department of Education. If that wasn't enough, there's also a federal Department of Homosexual Mafia that ran out of the department at 50 UN Plaza, San Francisco. That's like the wild, wild west. Within a week, you can run into these goons, these white-haired sodomites, allowed to patrol the hallways and stalk the men's bathroom, right in the government office. And protest was not allowed. One morning, this researcher was followed to his desk from the men's room in the basement. He went directly over to his supervisor, told her that he had to go with him for a special assignment. He didn't run any unit in the building, same grade as this guy was. Special assignment, he intended to take him to the 50 UN Plaza, literally. And apparently this guy roamed the building in silk pajamas and fluffy bedroom slippers. Now, at the time, the AIDS virus crisis was attacking healthy young gay men, just breaking out because they were attacked purposely, and the fear, even working in San Francisco, was huge at the time. Nobody understood how the virus was being transferred from person to person. But at 50 UN Plaza, the AIDS crisis was very real. People were dropping like flies. And of course, well, it was different times too. There was nothing to be afraid of, really. Now this, from senior employees, people discovered that this was a serious weakness. There were hapless psychopaths around there. This was fashioned. People were being... This is the first kind of COINTELPRO harassment job stuff going on. Now, Secret Service were actually part of this. I know because the agent from Washington, D.C. stopped to chat with this guy, and the agent, again, tall blonde male, that are really favored by these guys, but very much aware of the nature of the beehive. And anyone who goes into these organizations know that they have gone into it. Now, the FBI and the NSA have always told different stories about this. But most of these things are white only. U.S. Department of Education specifically. And still, it's breaking open, but only certain black people get in. Now, within the agency, trying to find a permanent job opening in a legal department is almost impossible. This is another one that is Mormon run. Like the FBI and the CIA that are really fond of Mormons. Top brass, this is old regime stuff, with plan to lay off people, reorganize entire departments, bring back everyone, and get rid of people who are shady, but shady in color and skin. This personnel office, older gentlemen, usually, and young pretty boys. You can see that the U.S. Army in Philippines during World War II, this is the same kind of thing those people used for trafficking. Now, most of us have had uncles and family and cousins who fought, or grandparents, who fought in World War II in Korea and Vietnam. Aggressions. They weren't wars, of course. Qualifying educational and experience never been waived for any of these jobs. Never granted positions within the U.S. government. In fact, many Vietnam veterans that suffered post-traumatic stress never got these. Doesn't matter if you have a BA or a BS. You don't get these jobs. Now, clandestine reorganization plan. Everyone, they wanted to return to the department, most likely at higher grade money positions, with a secret package, with new job description that they were applying for long to prior. It doesn't matter what you score on those tests, you don't get in there. You have to be part of the brotherhood. And most know that from the beginning. Entire departments, though, are rotten to the core. It's a beehive, wild, wild west stuff. Now, these kind of things that you would think it's over in this day and age, right? Absolutely not. And we jump to David Paul Jeremiah, conservative Christian, author, televangelist, U.S. congressman. This unnatural arm position, you can see the pictures, these two guys, and Ron Doolins. With the right or left hand kind of strangely hidden, you see these repeatedly in images. It's a modified Illuminati hidden hand symbol. So presumably to avoid detection. You keep seeing this one over and over again. Quasi, pseudo, strange. I've seen so many of the guys who would later become presidents first have to get their picture taken in this, except for Obama, who just seemed to appear. I've got nothing why he did, other than he gave that really good speech, and you can see the look on Hillary's face that, oh shit, I just lost. I still think she's coming because of this. Now, you would probably think this is all silly stuff, has nothing to do with it. But this Church of Philadelphia because of Francis's visit on that 23rd day of the 9th month in America's 239th year. He proceeded to address Congress, which was a first for any pontiff, and the 266th day of the year proved to be eventful for the 266th Pope. This is all about a woman in labor. This is the end of something. And on 9/26, specifically at 4:45 p.m., marking the 44th and final president, I think, it's a pretty important number of 13. 4 plus 4 plus 5. From the very podium that Lincoln made his Gettysburg Address, the pontiff pushed the enchanted masses one step closer, new form of slavery, under the guise of global community and fluffy bunnies and soft, happy thoughts. Now, hours before the reverse Gettysburg, from freedom to bondage, he addressed the Church of Philadelphia by conducting a Mass at the Cathedral Basilica of St. Peter and Paul. Which is weird. Let's look at Peter and Paul for a minute. Now, we've talked about what happened here on this continent and how we have natives who now have first names that sound, European. So when we talk about the Bible, we think of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and think these guys who are supposed to have lived 2,000 years before now in Africa, you would say North Africa. I'm like, okay, we've changed in 200 years. Can you imagine the difference between 2,000 years? And are you going to find a Matthew or Mark or Luke or Paul in Africa? Think about it. But anyway, so here we have this St. Peter and Paul. Despite games, despite the symbolism within the enemy's agenda, they have their ritualistic nonsense. But this is so obvious. Again, with CERN's birthday. And because it's CERN's 61st, I guess I can't skip over that. Because I didn't even know they built that long ago. Did you guys know that? I'm going to take a little break and rest my throat again. Get some more tea. It's really humid today, guys, and that's all that's bothering me. So I'm going to get another drink. I'll be right back.
Earthquakes, they don't have.
Okay, I'm back. Got my tea. So, you want to hear more about the beehive? The taste of honey in your mouth when bees were powerful was intoxicating. It came from the beehive in a fermented version. Honey can last thousands of years, even in a jar. But bees, like most beings on this planet that used to be much, much bigger, had a special meaning. The keeper of the bees were in charge of sacrifice. Yes, they killed people. Not animals, people. And they did these things for the Queen of Heaven. The reason it's important that Mars should be mentioned now, because they want to go there. This dumbass idea. This is like the height of stupidity. Mars, like our planet, is a being. This is the strongest male symbolism we have in this solar system. Mars is still one of those beings who is both, not male, not female, and in all of the mythos that we've spoken of before. But this, at this time in the honeycomb, we've talked about the Baha'i faith and the one world order. So the beehive, and why I've been a little bit leery about Kesh. Yes, I'm studying. Got up in the middle of the night again to listen to the teaching today. But this is one world religion, and few Christians today, and I realize we have a lot of our Christian brothers and sisters, but understand the serious nature of this New Age movement. The deceptive nature and this use of esoteric symbols and terminology are shared knowingly amongst its members. Just as Christians have the language of the church, New Age have the language all of their own of communication. And you have to see how the Baha'i faith and the Roman Catholic Church are intrinsically linked. From the old order and the beehive. Beehive is symbol, of course, of the bee, but the hidden meaning only in occultist terms. When you see how widespread the use of this symbol is, you'll wonder why and how you possibly missed it, because throughout history the beehive has been found on coins, the oldest one we've ever found, in architecture. I'll put up some pictures later for you. Medieval heraldry, since it was considered the symbol of industry, also imperial power. The Pope has adorned himself with beehive tiaras for centuries. You would think that that's just the pineal gland representation. It is, and it isn't. It's both. Something else. Even the coat of arms for Pope Benedict had on top the beehive, and then it had the severed black head, of course, and the bear. So this is Africa. Now the bee was at one moment the emblem of all French kings. Napoleon wore robes embroidered with bees. The canopies of their thrones were decorated with gigantic figures of bees. In modern times it's used in Freemasonry, of course, Masonic lectures. It's explained as a symbol of, again, industry, cooperation, but as cautioning against intellectual laziness, warning that he that will so demean himself as to not be endeavoring to aid to the common stock of knowledge and understanding, he may be a drone in the hive of nature, a useless member of society, unworthy of our protection as Masons. Even the Masonic floor, the black and white, may be cross-section of a hive. It is the hive mind to which most people belong. You got it? This is ancient. This is probably the deepest scandal in this continent, as a matter of fact. Heads rolling kind of stuff. The beehive. Now, the beehive is also used in similar meanings by the Mormons, who have such control of these people. That's why every single government agency wants those guys. They are trained up and ready to freaking go. The women and the men. You are trained. You will say yes, sir, and you will like it. And if they bend you over in one of those bathrooms, you're going to do it. That's another story. Try not to be dirty today, but I'm inspired. So anyway, the Beehive House is one of two official residences of the Brigham Young, an early leader of the Mormon Church. The Beehive House gets its name from the beehive structure atop of that house where they probably brought young boys. Not so young, but pretty, to learn the ways of their father. Now, Mormon usage has become one of the symbols of the states of Utah and the flag of Utah, and created in the backdrop and the signing of the EU Constitution. Again, was a beehive. Manly P. Hall, in his book The Secret Teachings of All Ages, explains that the fact that bees are ruled by queens is one of the reasons why this insect is considered a sacred feminine symbol. The bee is sacred to the goddess Venus. According to mystics, it is one of the several forms of life which came to Earth from the planet Venus. They say millions. I would say billions, but that's just me. Most of what Venus sent were plants, but not all. We'll do a show on that. Now, the bee is an ancient symbol of the sacred, associated with the mother goddess, the queen of heaven. Bees are ruled by queens. The hive is likened to a womb. It is the womb of the great mother. In the book New Age Lies to Women, Wanda Mars, interesting name, Rockinia Boyness, writes that the mother goddess was considered the queen bee by her subjects, the pagan worshippers. She explains the spiritual implications of this, in that this is a representation of the image of the unholy trinity, the triangle, the mother goddess, queen bee, the father of light, Lucifer again, the Antichrist, the son of perdition, if you will, all conspiring to take control of the planet Earth. And that portal was just opened. CERN said it. It happened. And everybody's here. And again, hashtag, that's not Jesus. This is how they plan to do it. Had planned, have done. The queen bee is to inspire her worker bees to go forth, harvest the crop of humanity, bring the honey, the nectar, so that the new age kingdom will have sustenance and power. Now, in our weakened state, because this planet is weakened, she is, especially on the surface. We have to realize that. Our bodies and this planet react in a certain way. I guess the easiest way I can put it to you is, okay, you look outside, smog, air pollution, lowered quantum yield. We are in a closed system. Everything here matters. It's lower solar power in all ranges. It's lower UV exposure in all ranges. The Earth does not have its full spectrum of light. It's like a tarp pulled over a tree, and the tree will die no matter if it is watered or if it gets special magic chemicals. It even has access to CO2 and minerals. Your world has been remodeled. Are there beings coming here to harvest? Yeah. Are they already here? Pretty sure. But because this is the year of the crossing, so I've told you, this is the year of the harvest, the blood harvest. This is the rapture. This is the rape, torture protocol. This is why things are just freaking disappearing. Now, the ultimate queen bee. This is the queen of heaven. Now, in the Bible, she is a Babylonian goddess whom the people worshipped. She has been reincarnated and remanufactured and pulled out to be redone. The Roman Catholic goddess under the name of Mary. Mary is still Ma. It doesn't matter how you call her, Ma is water. But Mary, Queen of Heaven. Many Catholics would deny that Mary worship is part of Catholicism, but this is not true. She holds a special place in the hearts of many all over the world. Catholics have one celebration after the next, dedicated to Mary, who is the Queen of Heaven, who is the only one who will get you to the gate. The gate is the alignment that the serpent god just stood in front, because you need the serpent god to get to the center of the universe. The children gather wood. The fathers kindle the fire. The women knead the dough to make cakes for the Queen of Heaven. They pour out drink offerings to gods, that they may provide me to anger. Mary has appeared under many names over the centuries. I'll give you a couple. Mary, Queen of Heaven, Rome. Erinra, Welsh. Aphrodite, Greek. Azeroth, Phoenicians, Canaanites. Ashtare, Middle Eastern. Anahita, Persia. Anu is Celtic. Aveta, Gaulish. Brigitte, Irish. Ceres, Rome. The Corn Mother, that's Native American, different names for this. This is the Earth Goddess, this goddess of fertility. This is why we make corn dolls. And this shows that the African influence, that is, we went back and forth with each other. This is why we all make corn gods. If you have corn, you make the corn doll. We just do that. And this is what it means. It is also Gaia, Greek. Frigg, Scandinavian. Freya, Scandinavian. Demeter, Greek. Sibyl, Rome. Hathor, Egyptian. Hema, Hawaiian. Inanna, Sumerian. Ishtar, Ishtara, Babylonian, Assyrian. Isis, Juno. Kali, the Black Earth Mother, the Black Goddess. Kostrava, Slavic. Melita, Sumerian. Ocean, Afro-Cuban, Veve, Voodoo. She's a bunch of things. The Rainbow Snake, this too, Earth Goddess, Aborigine, this all over. Rhea, Aztec, Tuatha, different names for that. Venus, of course. Venetia, Tibetan. They've got a couple names for her, but there's many. The queen bee is the mother of every single bee, just as the Virgin Mary is the mother of all women she is close to, whom she calls the daughters of Mary. She is given her title, the Whore of Babylon, which certainly isn't a term of endearment. But if you go to the Baha'i House of Worship in Germany, it's a beehive. Basilica St. Peter in Rome, on top, it's a beehive. Dome of the Rock, on top, it's a beehive. U.S. Capitol Dome, it's a beehive. You have to look up to see the oneness of all the religions here on this planet. You're not worshiping what you think you are. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. I'm just saying you should be a little bit more aware of who you're calling. The Queen of Heaven, symbolically, is about Gilgamesh and Ishtar. It is about Mystery Babylon. Whoever plays the supervillains here, and it's why I smiled so much when my son and his group called themselves the Hive Mind Collective. Of course, these wonderful men who I've had the pleasure of guiding. Instrumental. But we need to know what that means. And if you like, we will talk about the beehive and the blessed nectar and the human sacrifice. How about on Thursday? Let's get bloody. Thanks, everybody. Love you guys, and try not to die before Thursday. I need you. Bye for now.